Time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go.
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod. I'm your host, Josh, and we have our co-host returning for the week, Blake. He is back from a busy 2 weeks off, and we're here to chat about War Mantle, the latest episode of Star Wars The Bad Batch. We saw the return of clone commandos. Camino, the plotline there continues with the cancellation of the clone orders on behalf of the Republic. So much happened in this episode, and we're going to be getting into it with Blake. Stay tuned for more at the very end.
Another happy landing.
We have Blake joining us again. Welcome back, sir.
Hey man, how's it going? Glad to be back.
Good to have you back. It's been a crazy couple weeks. We had a guest co-host for a little bit, friend of mine, Darian. Did an awesome job, and was really happy to slot him in because I was looking for a little window to kind of get him on at some point, and I think he had a good time. So
nice. I'm glad to hear that. I checked it out a little bit, and it sounded like you guys had a really good conversation.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It's we chatted about the last two episodes, and just actually we even though this episode's about the newest one, War Mantle, I'm just curious in 2 minutes, was there anything like crazy about the last two episodes that you saw that really stuck out that you kind of just itching to bring up, or were they just kind of passerby episodes that were like, okay, they were good, but nothing crazy?
I wish you'd asked me this before we were live, because I would looked up what happened.
Oh, did you not watch those episodes?
I watched them as they came out, but it was like over a week ago, so I don't remember this specific one.
Oh, okay, yeah, no worries. It was just more of a on the spot kind of like, oh yeah, I'm actually kind of curious to see what he thinks about it. The last one was called Infested, and it was about the Sid loses her place to the Daveronian guy named Roland, and it's like a gangster operation that the Bad Batch plots to sabotage what's going on in there.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that one. I texted you a little bit about that after watching it.
Right, that's right. Yeah, so yeah, that one was pretty cool. And then the one prior to that was Rescue on Ryloth, which is when they break out. Hera's family. yeah,
that's right.
So yeah,
that I guess I'll go in order. That first one where they break out Hera's family, the thing that really stood out to me in that one, which I thought was super cool, was how Commander Hauser at the end, he like turned on the Empire and convinced several other clone troopers to do it as well, and they all stood up. They all got arrested, but they helped the Bad Batch escape, which is really surprising from what we've seen from the other clones in this series so far, where it seems like they're really indoctrinated, mostly due to with the chips, right? So I'm wondering, I think we had texted a little bit about this as well. Maybe the chips are like slowly becoming less effective as the Empire's been going on.
Yeah, exactly. This was like a theory of ours a little while ago, and it's curious that a regular clone like that can just
you'd think it would be no matter what, they have to do what they're told. But maybe that's only in regards to Jedi, and outside that, it's not as strong.
Who knows? Because he does act differently than a lot of the other clones are.
True.
Right? So it's a really weird. It's this unresolved plot line, which I think we're going to get answers to either maybe towards the end of the season or even after in season 2.
No, it's true. And Rex alluded to this, I think, in Rebels as well, where he says not many of us were able to like stand up and fight back.
Right.
or resist just going along with the flow.
Yeah. 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 That was an interesting one for sure. How did you like this Roland character, a new character to the underworld?
I thought it was pretty funny because he's like a kid of another crime lord. So he just expects that he's going to be really good at his job.
Yeah.
But he comes off to me as one of those kids that were really like babied. And so when they step in the real world, they have no idea what the real world is like.
Yeah. I was saying to Darian just how ridiculous I thought the name Roland was for this gangster, you know, like
that's true.
Like the next one that turns up is going to be named Napoleon. We're going to have Jeff, Jeff showing up. Jeff the Jabba the Jeff.
There we go. Jeff the Hutt.
Jeff the Hutt.
There we go.
Yeah.
This is some serious fan fiction. Not good fan fiction.
Terrible fan fiction.
Just wait, Dave Filoni will listen to the podcast. He's gonna add like Dave the Hutt or Jeff the Hutt or something.
Oh man, yeah. Fake Filoni the Felucian or something. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Who knows?
It's brutal.
Filoni the what's this?
Dave Baloney.
Baloney the Favreau. I don't know.
There we go. Keep your day job, man. Back on that episode, though, I love all episodes that kind of explore the underworld a little bit. Yeah. And to me, that was really cool in that one because I really liked seeing how the Pikes came in and they had this guy like do the job to get this spice, but he lost the spice, and the Pikes didn't care about him at all. They just wanted their stuff, and they just off that guy or whatever. I thought he was going to die at the end. I was surprised they only took his horn off. I suspect that's some massive dishonor amongst Deveronians, though.
Right. Yeah, I guess it would be because, that the one from is it? I'm blanking now whether or not the one on the Mandalorian with the red skin. I forget if he has his horn still or not. I'm trying to remember if he did or if he went full on Hellboy and kind of chopped them off or something. Yeah, I forget, but
I don't remember.
I think it's interesting that we've seen another of his species now show up because his species is quite cool and the Mandalorian, at least to me, that was the first time I found out that they had fireproof skin. Now, it's just,
I didn't know that either.
Right, and maybe it's just the books that I'd read because I haven't read every single Star Wars book out there, right? So maybe it's like that was just a piece of information that always just slipped me by, and maybe it existed in the EU and I just never knew about it. But
not that I was aware of.
So it's kind of cool.
Could just be the writers and they're like, well, he's basically Satan, so I'm sure fire doesn't affect him.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so this episode of War Mantle, we start off with Gregor on the run, which instantly, I don't know about you, but I right away I knew it was Gregor, like from the get-go. Yeah, because I doubted at first because his chest plate was different than the last time we saw him with all the yellow markings and everything. But I was having a hard time remembering whether or not there was stuff like that on his chest plate. I know he had some sort of weird like checkered camo print going on his armor, which is pretty neat. But I can imagine that when someone's blown up, their armor is probably useless after that. So
yes, they get a new kit.
Right. Yeah. I was like, okay, it must be a new suit of armor, and it's got to be Gregor though, because the way he sounded and his voice and everything, and the chest plate right away, I was like, that's RC armor right there. That's Republic Commando armor. Like, it's got to be Gregor. Because like this entire season, I've been like, when is he going to show up? When's Wolf going to show up? The clones that we meet in Star Wars Rebels, right?
You have been talking about that, and it's a great time to lead into that because when we meet them later, it's just this giant black box of like, what happened? How did they get here? Yeah,
exactly. Because the last time we saw Gregor, he was dead and blown up. Yeah, and then with Wolf, it's like, where the heck has he been? So a lot of questions kind of spawned from Rebels. It didn't really answer as many as start new ones half the time. So it's cool to finally get that bridge. I appreciated this entire episode just for including Gregor in the plot.
No, I agree. And okay, don't bash me, but when we first came to the opening shot, which by the way had beautiful cinematography.
Oh yeah,
come down with all the mist and everything through the trees. That was gorgeous. Whoever did that lighting and stuff looks amazing. Good job. we get down to the clone on the run. Don't bash me, but I thought that was Commander Hauser.
Actually, no. They got the same haircut going on. So yeah,
it's got that hair. It's got to be Hauser. It was like 2 episodes ago they arrested him, and I guess he escaped.
It makes sense, actually. You know what? I'm on board with that. Yeah, because I mean, they both got the slick back hair, and the last time we saw Gregor, he was I forget if he was like, because I know he had the whole beard and long hair going on when he was a dishwasher, and then he
shaved it after that.
At the end of that episode when he puts his armor back on, he shaves like everything off and he goes full buzz cut, I think. But it's hard to, because it's been so long since we've seen him. Like the last time he showed up was season 4 of Clone Wars, so long time.
If I looked closer, I would have seen that he had the Commando chest piece on,
right?
Because it has a different design than the regular trooper. And once he revealed himself to be Gregor, I double checked. I'm like, oh, yeah. I just missed that.
Yeah.
But that's this pretty subtle thing. Like, I don't know. Excluding that, you would never know that it wasn't Hauser until he explains himself.
Yeah, exactly. What I thought was interesting is Crosshair pops up as well at the start of this thing. And he's told to keep an eye on the Kaminoans. And... that kind of subplotted to later on in the episode, but it was nice to kind of get back to that a little bit, because that's something I kind of felt was a little just random about the last episode that we saw. It was like this weird kind of one shot between the 2 arcs of like, here, Crosshair, go hunt down the Bad Batch at the end of the Ryloth arc, and then boom, like no Crosshair, no nothing, like just this random like Roland shows up and whatever else, and then now we're back to the main plot again. I was like, okay, like classic Star Wars animation where you have like a couple of really solid arcs and then a few like one-shot episodes which are just like half decent and fill a season, right? Yeah,
exactly. A lot of times it comes down to, well, we need to make 24 episodes, only 12 of them are needed for the storyline, so
yeah,
just make them go on random adventures.
I know, right? And here's the thing I said to Darren. I was like, you know what? Half the time, like, you never know what to expect, because some of these episodes that are like, they feel like one-shot random things, they actually set up a lot of later on content, which then kind of pulls from those stories. And we saw that a lot with seasons 1 and 2 of Clone Wars. Like a lot of those arcs one-shot episodes are now made fully relevant by later season arcs. And
that's true.
And it's like they became much more relevant once the chronological order came out, and it's like, oh, like this is how you watch that show. And then there was these random episodes that they done which actually slot between these random 2 episodes from another season, and it makes a full arc of 3 episodes or whatever. So I thought that's something to keep in mind, I guess, as we go forward in this show, is that I'm not trying to hate on these episodes that I don't like, because the fillers, like I'm not trying to hate on them or anything, but they are kind of like, okay, that was an episode, let's see what happens.
No, I think people can understand that it's a distraction from the main storyline.
Yeah, exactly. And me being so eager to find out what happens, like, that's pretty much all I care about at the moment. So
so you like basically you turn on the episode each week and you either sigh or you cheer, depending on if it's part of the main story or not.
Yeah, exactly. It's 50. It's 50-50. That's what Dave would say. Did you know they're moving clones off world, off of Kamino?
Yeah,
clearing out to Polka City.
Not all the clones, just the children, which was surprising.
Yeah, the cadets.
Yeah, they're going to take them off world to train them. I don't know. That sounds like to me they're going to train them not under Imperial, under their Imperial training regulations. They're going to maybe do their own thing, and that might lead into the clone on Clone War we keep talking about.
Either that, or they were talking about the facility that we saw in this episode, which is the one that they break Gregor out of. I can imagine them kind of referring to we're moving you off world to another training facility, and that is the training facility.
I don't think so, because when they revealed the helmet of the troopers there, they were humans, not clones.
That's humans, true. But they were
not clones.
Right. Yeah. So maybe there's a different facility that just keeps training the clones the way they were on Kamino, but they're just moving them off world. Yeah.
That's what I think.
Maybe. Yeah.
It could be that they are maybe going to go back to the facility that we came across with Bane.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to kickstart that old facility up again and work off grid.
Right. I thought it was interesting that they finally revealed that the Empire has canceled all the contracts that they had with the Republic, which no longer exists. Right?
We all knew was coming. Yeah.
Yeah, we all knew it was coming, but now this is the episode where it's like, okay, finally they've acknowledged that this is what's going on, and it's the end of the first season, so we kind of expected that would happen. But I thought that was neat that we didn't need to wait for the second season to get this info. Like we're a couple months past Revenge of the Sith as far as time goes, and maybe even a year by the end of this season. And they've already canceled the contracts with Commando. They're like, yeah, we're going a different direction with our military. So see ya.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I really want to know where they're going to go with it, especially in regards to how the Kaminoans are going to retaliate, because we know that the Kaminoans were created in the prequels, and they do not exist in the Imperial era in the films. Even the new ones. Yeah. So does that mean they're eradicated? Same as the Geonosians after they created the Death Star?
That's the interesting thing about Mandalorian, because we know that one dude, the scientist that helps the rest of them recover Grogu from Moff Gideon, right? The one that they capture in the shuttle, the nervous Nilly. I forget his name. The one with the glasses. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know who you're talking about.
So he's wearing like a cloner shirt with the same logo that all the scientists and cloners have on Kamino. And even though he's human, it makes you wonder, like, oh, maybe he's like a chief scientist under the same branch that maybe has something to do with them keeping Nala Se alive at the end of this episode, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna lead into that. I jumped to where you were getting at with that. That makes sense. So then if she starts training regular, like human, non-Kamino scientists to do the same cloning quality or whatever, then that one of those people could be the guy from Mandalorian.
It's definitely possible. And he's a young guy by Mando, which takes place about 30 years ish later. So we'll have to see exactly what happens there, because he does look like he could be in his late 30s, this guy. So maybe that branch that he's a part of, though, maybe we'll see something happen there.
Yeah, but that's not to say that they didn't have I'm so terrible with Kaminoan names. They didn't have like the cloner. She didn't teach Nala Se, thank you, I almost said Lamasu. Nala Se teach Imperial scientists everything she knew, and then they just offed her but kept the information and passed it down, teaching their own recruits. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, something like that. Maybe they just took all our research and were like, okay, well, we don't need you anymore, and then see ya, right? Like kill them all off. Because like you were saying before, the Kaminoans, like there's not very many of them. Like there's a very select handful of the population. And the rest of them got wiped, or the rest of them died in the catastrophe that happened.
The Great Flood on their planet.
Right.
And they can no longer actually like naturally procreate. Mm-hmm. So they have to clone themselves to keep their race going.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's an interesting thing to speculate on, like whether or not we'll see the end of their race completely, or maybe even their plan just gets blown up. Who knows? Because there's no mention of Kamino at any point later on in the saga, and like very, very few, maybe very little or very few mentions in like some of the books and stuff like that. But I can't think of any particular situation, and I've read a lot of the canon stuff. So
to be fair, it's never heard of before we watched like Attack of the Clones either.
Right. Yeah. It's like it's a very kind of like out there planet, and it's also been erased from the archive, so it's not like any of the Jedi can find it either. So yeah, who knows?
If it's not within the archives, it simply does not exist.
Yeah, so stuck up. I've
met that librarian before.
Oh man, everyone knows someone like that. If it's not in our records, it does not exist.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's not on the Facebook, it should not exist.
So I do all my fact checking.
That's right.
That and Wikipedia, of course.
So our lives exist around Wikipedia. Yeah, what was the saying again? So yeah, it's possible. Maybe it'll end up like Jeddah, right? We never heard of Jeddah before, and we didn't know that there was a test planet that they used the Death Star on. Maybe it'll just end up getting blown up someday, right?
That's true. They never said that they didn't use the Death Star before A New Hope.
Right. Yeah. They only said that was the first full
operational.
Yeah, and they didn't say anything about there being a single whatever core laser test just to see what kind of damage it does, right? And that's what Jeddah's test was all about. I don't think Camino is going to get blown up by the Death Star or anything, but like what I'm saying is like some catastrophe could happen, like orbital bombardment or something like that, where Topoka City just gets shredded and all the Kaminoans die, and that's the end of them, kind of thing, right?
I think the Empire is more terrible than that. I think they'd more likely do they would poison the water and just kill them all or something.
Poison the planet's water supply, which is basically
the whole planet.
The whole planet.
It's just a big slush ball.
Yeah. Just turn it into ice or something like that. Who knows? Maybe they'll test some sort of weather weapon. Oh, maybe they could test some sort of weather weapon, because we've seen weather weapons in Project Cinder, which is used to dismantle the Empire after Palpatine's death. Yeah, that's talked about in Mando and in the comic books and everything like that. Battlefront 2.
I wouldn't put it past Dave Filoni to take advantage of that.
Right. Yeah. So the Bad Batch is tasked by Rex to rescue a clone that they don't know, which we all know to be Gregor. And they're pretty reluctant to do that, but they find an Imperial base in the process of scouting him out. What did you think of this Imperial base?
That was pretty neat. I was very surprised that they already have the standard Imperial architecture that we see 20 years from that point in time. Yeah, all the doors and the walls and everything, they got the same. Yeah. They have the same lighting on the walls with the long slits.
Yeah, mind you, it is very similar to how a Republic Venator class is lit through the halls, but still, I thought it was also very, very curious that they had moved so quickly with their visual aesthetic, right? And speaking of visual aesthetic, the Proto-Stormtroopers.
Did you notice that they have essentially the same helmets that were in Solo?
What's funny? Yeah, what's funny about these Stormtroopers, though? They are the Ralph McQuarrie Stormtrooper.
Oh, are they?
They are 100%.
With the Nazi helmets?
Minus the shield and the lightsaber, they are 100% Ralph McQuarrie Stormtroopers. Like the original design for what a Stormtrooper would look like. Mm-hmm. And that design changed when they did the movie, but that's that very you can buy a Sideshow collectible statue of this. There's a 3 3/4 inch action figure. This design has been well known and around for a long time. It's one of the most iconic Ralph McQuarrie paintings ever, with the Stormtrooper standing in the hallway holding the lightsaber. Right?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
This costume for the Proto-Stormtroopers is that design down to the helmet and everything. Yeah, the chest plate.
I hadn't seen that. I didn't realize it was from that, but I did notice that. I think that's the same helmet that Ezra wears when he's doing the training.
Oh, the cadet's helmet. Yeah, it's very similar. It's kind of it looks like the cadet helmet was stylized off of that helmet. Mm-hmm. But that's what I like so much about that they used this thing, because they didn't fully 100% use it in Star Wars Rebels, because at that point the Empire is very much established as this thing. So it wouldn't really make sense to have the Stormtroopers look different only 5 years before A New Hope and Rogue One. But it would make sense for them to look completely different, 15 to 20 years prior, right? when they're first kind of getting the ball rolling on.
In fact,
stuff.
it would make more sense. Like every military is going to change their standard look at least every 10 years.
Right. Yeah. And this is a huge thing too, because if you line up the evolution of the Stormtrooper, starting from the Phase 1 clone helmet, this adds another helmet to that lineup of standard phase helmets, right? And now I have a T-shirt that's out of date.
That's true.
I've got a T-shirt that has the 4 helmets on it. It's got the Phase 1 clone, the Phase 2 clone, the Stormtrooper, and then the First Order Stormtrooper helmet, right?
Well,
and
shoot, you need to buy a new shirt.
Now I got a new, I got to buy a new shirt now. So whoever made that design on TeePublic, you got to update it. Got to rebuy that shirt again.
Or maybe some fan will take advantage and put that up there and cash in themselves.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So
shoot Josh a link, he'll buy a shirt.
Yeah, it's a cool design though. Like I like it a lot, and it does create a much needed hybrid between the Phase 2 clone and the Stormtrooper, which was, vastly different design in a way.
Yes, but I almost feel like in certain ways this new helmet is a step in a different direction. So it's the only one that has this helmet on top of the helmet. You know what I mean? Like it's more like a mask and a helmet.
Yeah. It kind of has that sort of extra visory kind of look to it. Although the thing about what I like about it is that it maintains the Phase 2 look, where they had the vent part, they had the 2 little nozzles on the bottom, and then the visor area. It used to be like on the Phase 2, it was like kind of one long goggle looking thing. And then on this one, it's slowly separated just a little bit, but still jointed in the middle by a small sliver. So it's just kind of it's kind of a cool look. Like I'm looking at it right now. It's kind of a neat little, hybrid, I guess, in a way. And once you start to stylize it, like there's a pop vinyl you can buy called Concept Series Stormtrooper. And if you look at the pop vinyl, it very much like it is in the pop, art style, the weird bubbly kind of art style that they have going on. It does very much reminisce a weird kind of like altered version of a Stormtrooper helmet, but could also pass for some sort of different clone, Yeah,
I can see
in
that.
a way. I don't know. It's just got a very different vibe to it. But what I like about it is that it's totally, new. And
it's actually a little bit different than the Ralph McQuarrie one. Now I'm looking at it. The helmet shape is more protruded, like I was talking about. Like it looks like they put on a mask and then a helmet on top.
Yeah, almost like Darth Vader's helmet, right?
Yeah,
like he's got
exactly.
the mask and then because it's got that outline of a separate kind of shape that goes onto the back.
Which, by the way, is like the exact shape of a World War II Nazi helmet.
Right. Right. Yeah. And again, such a cool kind of reference to real worlds designs that things are based on. Right.
Yeah.
And
let's be honest, the Empire is just space Nazis.
Right. Yeah. And so, very cool. Yeah. They did stylize it just a little bit more than the original concept, and it's less elongated. Like the visors, the breathing apparatus area is a little different, but what I like about it is that they literally went for mind you, it is intended to be stylized. Like Bad Batch, as we know, is a stylized version of what would be live action. So in a way, like looking at like a Ralph McQuarrie Stormtrooper statue based on the concept, that also is an art stylized version. Like I'm curious to see what this helmet would look like when it's not art stylized, and just like what it would look like in a live action format. Right. This is just such a cool kind of thing to bring into this show.
It does add it adds a stepping stone. I'm kind of glad they did do that because like we said, from to have the exact same look for 16 years is a long time. Right. But
because it changed twice over 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. Which is really fast. Yeah. And then suddenly it just doesn't change anymore.
Right.
And we know that by the time Rebels takes place, they have the standard Stormtrooper outfit. Mm-hmm. How far along is that? That's like...
So it's like 14 years after where we are in the Bad Batch.
Okay, so it is still a long time.
Yeah,
Wasn't sure
still a
if it
long
was
time.
like 6 years or something.
And see, that's why I was wondering myself when we started off this show. It's like, when are they going to transition the Phase 2 clones into the Stormtroopers that we kind of know and love, right? Like from the original films. And the answer is like right now. Like, but it's not how we expected it to be with the classic Stormtrooper suit. It's actually this hybrid kind of this other phase entirely where they're TKs and not necessarily referred to as Stormtroopers yet.
I mean, it makes sense from Disney's standpoint because now they get to sell all these extra helmets and action figures.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I'll be first in line to buy one of these Black Series when it comes out.
See, there we go.
Yeah, it'll look great next to my Stormtrooper helmet. That's for sure.
We all know they're going to do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It'll get it in black and red and green and camo and gold and silver.
You'll be able to buy a Disney Parks limited edition one, you know.
Mickey Mouse's face on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Comes with ears.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, it's kind of neat to see. And I don't want to linger on this helmet forever, but I thought it was just a very cool thing. And I'd also like to point out that the flash forward scene in the end of Clone Wars, where Vader goes to the planet that Ahsoka crashes on and stuff, and he's got snow troopers and stormtroopers with him. They're all wearing the classic original trilogy era suits, which means that this episode has now dated that flash forward event at least by a couple of years. Like that's a flash forward to a couple of years from now, which now kind of benchmarks it after the entire Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith comic book series. That's just my guess, but I would imagine that flash forward event takes place around the same time as Solo, which is 5 years later. That's just me kind of brainstorming when that flash forward event takes place. But thanks to this episode, we now know there's a whole phase of Stormtrooper that we just haven't seen yet. And I can imagine season 2 onwards of this show, however many seasons it goes for, these are the Stormtroopers that we're going to see.
Interesting. So I just looked up the Solo helmet, the one that he wears, because like you just said, they have regular Stormtroopers.
Oh yeah, those are the Mud Scruffer,
Mud Trooper.
The Mud
is what
Trooper.
it's called.
Yeah, those ones. Right.
The Mud Trooper helmet looks very similar to this one.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, Mud. Let me just look this up. Mud Trooper, and that was the Battle of Mimband, I think. Right.
That sounds right. If you just type in Mud Trooper, it comes up.
Or is it also known as a Swamp Trooper? Yeah, Swamp Trooper as well. Yeah, you're right. It does look very similar. Like the breathing apparatus part with the big, got that. Thick. Yeah,
and it's totally does. The same kind of lens where it's tight in the middle. Just not quite as tight as we have with the current Trooper. That's and it's got the separated helmet brim.
Right. Yeah, that is a good point. This helmet, however, that he's got is like an officer's helmet where it's just like the shield part that goes around the back of the head, and then the goggles literally are separate.
Yeah.
So they flip up and down, and then it looks like that mask thing is a separate component entirely. It's almost like they took the Ralph McQuarrie helmet and just totally deconstructed it into the Mud Trooper helmet.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like to me. Yeah. As I'm looking at all the different screenshots of people with the masks on and off and this and that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, if Star Wars was just a series of helmets, I mean, you know,
gotta get them all, man.
Oh yeah, there's so many.
Gotta get them all. Gotta get them all.
There's so many helmets in Star Wars. You could honestly yeah. It really, the more I appreciate Ezra's helmet collection more now than I think I ever did when I saw Star Wars Rebel. I was like, how stupid is that? Just collecting helmets. But I'm like, no, actually, dude, I'm like, dude, there's an actual hobby here. Like,
it's a thing, man. So and they don't make all of them, so you got to print them yourself sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So we had Echo convince the group to rescue the clone that they don't know, because you know he has a self moment of
like you saved me, why not this guy?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you know, that was one moment I was like, okay, a good reason why Echo's here.
Yeah, no, it's true.
On the
They
other
would have
hand,
just ditched Gregor, right?
right, yeah, and on the other hand, I'm still like, why have they not replaced his arm yet? I was just like, he was there for that good reason, but then when they get inside the base, he just uses the right away. The first thing he does is put it in a wall and find out information with a screwdriver. I'm like, okay.
I still think something cool is going to happen where it's probably going to be season 2 now, but he'll
get an
crash
upgrade.
land and his arm will get snapped off and
Thank
he won't be able to
goodness.
fix it. And then
Thank
they'll
goodness.
find like a B2 arm and they'll like hack it on there or something.
This is like dream fan fiction here.
It could happen. Happened to Darth Vader. It could happen to Echo.
I mean, in the comic books, they recently gave Darth Vader a B2 battle droid arm. So, I mean, anything can happen, right?
It's pretty cool. To be honest.
It was really awesome, actually. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Like a lightsaber in one hand, and a B2 double blaster in the other.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty kick-ass.
So we got a lot of RCs, a lot of Republic Commandos in this episode. I mean, aside from Gregor, it makes a lot of sense as to why he would be there in the first place, and a really good segue for bringing him into the show. But he's being used as a trainer for these new TK units that they're making, which is people that are volunteering, bound by loyalty to the Empire. There's an endless supply of them across the galaxy, and they're using Republic Commandos to train these people.
It's an interesting concept.
Yeah. How'd you feel about it?
Mixed feelings, I guess. It makes sense that the Empire would want the best of the clone troopers to train their new Stormtroopers. But it makes me wonder then, just because of one line of Gregor saying, I didn't teach him everything.
Yeah.
That makes all the Stormtroopers incompetent.
I feel like here's the thing about the Stormtroopers' incompetency. Disney/Lucasfilm will take every opportunity that they can get to throw a rock as to why Stormtroopers are just so terrible, right?
Right.
In Rebels, it was like, well, they always bring up the helmet thing.
Yeah.
The visibility helmet thing. And then in Rebels, they brought up the unreliability of their weapons. They did that in Mandalorian as well, right? Like with the crappy plaster pistols that the scout troopers were using.
Yeah, that was so funny. But in this, they have the exact same weapons as the clones do.
Yeah.
They still couldn't hit anybody.
They still couldn't hit anybody. Yeah. I know, right? Here's the thing. Like, I just think. Even the Commandos, though. Any chance they get, like, they're gonna throw a bone at why Stormtroopers are terrible, right? I mean, if you think about it, it's a training facility for the entire episode. All we saw was them walking around hallways. We didn't actually see them training anybody. Like they were just in groups walking just around, led by a Republic Commando or somebody, and that was it. It was like, this is a training facility. I would expect to see a window or something where people are shooting at targets or something like that.
That's a good point.
Camino, we had the battle simulation people going on when Kenobi was walking down the hallways, and you saw the clones actually training and like hand-to-hand combat fighting each other and everything like that. That was awesome, right? And I'm like, this is an Imperial training facility and nobody's doing anything about it.
Yeah, they kind of skipped over that bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
I thought that was pretty funny, though. I was like, okay.
I mean, I'm not entirely surprised. Like, that would be a lot more budget and time. But
right. Yeah, just an extra room to model just to waste on like 5 seconds, right? So
yeah, but I get it. It would have been cool and hammered home because it almost feels like the way it's told, Gregor was the only one who taught them.
Yeah.
As opposed to all of the commandos that were there.
Here's the thing. Maybe, because he says that these troopers are going to be their replacement. And as we know from this episode now, I think the clones are probably made aware that the contracts to make more of them have been canceled and they're being replaced by people from across the galaxy. And some of these Republic commandos who've been fighting through Republic for years, as much as they're bound by loyalty to the Empire, they probably don't want to see themselves just being tossed out the door, just to train the new guys and then to just be retired, right? Like they're probably like, okay, this is a bit of a piss off. Like I'm not going to care about training these guys the same way that I would train my own brothers.
No, it's true.
Like, even if they're not Gregors, like I can imagine them all feeling the same way about it.
Well, you're trading the guy who's going to replace you against your will. You're not retiring. Like,
right.
You're being forced out.
Exactly. I mean, like who's ever had a job where it's like, here, train this guy, and then like midway through training them, you're like, oh, by the way, he's going to take your job someday. And they're like, and then there's so many questions like, okay, well, what's going to happen to me? Where am I going to go? Do I go somewhere else? Am I just getting fired? Like what? And then no one tells them anything, right? Like that's kind of the position that a lot of those clones are in, who are training those humans.
Yeah, and I find it odd then in that case that Gregor's the only one to question it.
I think it's more like, I think he's the only one to actually desert and do something about it, whereas the other ones, they might be questioning it and just don't really know what to do with it yet.
Right.
But then from the EU, because you and I have both read the Republic Commando book series, and in that series, there's 5 books. So if anyone wants to play the video game and then read the book series, it was actually pretty good. First one's called Hard Contact. Second one's called 000. Third one was called True Colors. The fourth one was called Order 66, and the fifth one was called Imperial Commandos 501st.
I'm impressed you knew all those by heart.
It's a great series. But in those book series, we know that when the Empire takes over, they turn the Republic Commandos into Imperial Commandos and have them hunting Jedi.
And it's very shortly after Order 66.
Yeah, and in the canon now, they've established, as per the comic books, that the Inquisitorius, which has the Jedi hunting Inquisitors and stuff, are pretty much a thing like shortly after the turn of the Empire, or the Republic into the Empire.
Yeah, because a handful of Jedi turn with the Empire. With Vader.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we know that the Inquisitors are likely already running around out there hunting down Jedi, as well as Vader, being put on his missions by the Emperor to fully become the Sith Lord that he's intended to be. So it's interesting that, I guess, with the Inquisitorius, maybe they just don't really have a need to use the Commandos to hunt Jedi, because Scorch himself is in this episode and he's being used as a trainer for the just the schmoes.
Standard stormtroopers.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point, because you think they'd have better purpose than to send all of them there. That being said, we don't know all of the commandos at this facility.
Right. Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know fully a whole lot about commandos, they're like the elite of the elite. Okay. So like if anyone out there is thinking Clone Force 99 is like the elite of the elite, they're actually not. They're one of the groups out there that are kind of elite, but the Republic Commandos are they're like the best of the best, and they operate in squads of 4. And they get the job done.
They're kind of like Navy SEALs.
Yeah, Navy SEALs is the best way to put it. They're like the people you send out when you want something. Missions. Yeah, they're the Black Ops teams of the Republic, basically. And Delta Squad, which is the protagonist of the video game Republic Commando, they showed up once before in Clone Wars episode, which is the Mist, which was from season 3. When Savage Opress is unleashed to the galaxy and kills a few Jedi on some planet somewhere. And Delta Squad recovers the bodies of the Jedi and reports back to Kenobi and the other Jedi about what they found on Devron, which is the planet that this thing happened on. Brief moment. We only saw them for like 20 seconds, and that was it. And they never showed up again. The only Republic Commando we saw again in Clone Wars was Gregor, and that was the last. That was all she wrote, basically, right?
It was such a shame. I really wanted an episode involved with those guys, but with Delta Squad,
like a full episode, yeah.
Yeah, but that being said, I feel like Filoni was scared that they would do it wrong and fans would get mad.
Right, yeah, which is too bad, because I would have loved to have seen them give it a chance, and maybe they would just let's just make a new group called the Bad Batch and do it with them. Because, and then give them superpowers.
Naturally.
Right.
Which is like we talked about before, they've basically merged the alpha clones, or the null clones, with the Republic Commando clones.
Yeah. Yeah. And what else do we know about them? We know that Their armor is like extra strong, and
Yeah, it's extra thick. Katarn armor.
yeah. So that's how Gregor survived.
Katarn armor.
Kyle Katarn armor. That's how Gregor survived his explosion. That's how he survived the 2 blaster bolts he got in his chest as of this episode. Their visors are easily the coolest ever.
Yeah, the back glow
With the blue lights. Oh man. Yeah, so good. I love Republic Commandos. They're the best.
They have a great design. I will admit, they're very cool.
Yeah.
And they have like the blade that comes out of their wrist, all Assassin's Creedy.
So oh man, awesome. They
have it all. They have like an assault rifle that could turn into a grenade launcher or a sniper.
Yeah, and the DC-17 blaster is just the best, hands down. They got all the attachments. They can clip on the sniper attachment, the grenade attachment. You know, it's like a Swiss Army knife blaster for a clone trooper, and you know, everything they need to complete the mission, kind of thing. So I really hope we get more of them. But this episode was full of our Republic Commando, even just unpainted, normal white ones.
Yeah, that's actually one of my biggest issues with this episode is
I wish to see more diversity in the armors. Yeah,
because in the books, the Commandos, they're all trained by Mandalorians, like specifically.
Yeah,
and so they all took on more personality than the regular clones because they had Mandalorian traditions. They all could speak Mando. They all used like Mando cuss words and stuff.
That's right. Yeah, the Republic Commandos in the EU that's another thing we know about them, at least as far as, you know, if anyone doesn't know much about them, is they're directly trained by Jango and his
Cal Skirata.
Cal Skirata, which has a good relation with the Fett family. So you know, lots there to make Republic Commandos not only just clones and great warriors like Jango Fett, but also hardcore Mandalorian style.
Yeah, they live the Mandalorian lifestyle.
Yeah, like an army of Din Djarin's, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. But with that personality, they all painted custom armor.
Yeah,
so
they did. Yeah.
The fact that other than Scorch, they were all just standard white armor to me was really lame. Right.
Exactly. Maybe that's why I love Mandalorian so much too, because like they all feel like elite clones to me in a way. Like anytime you see a Mandalorian in armor doing their stuff, like you know, they're always so awesome when they do it. It's like those are just that. It just reminds me of Republic Commando and like all the amazing times I played that game and like the amazing moments in the book that they make these clones just to be the most awesome people ever. Like it's a good time, and so seeing this episode was just fantastic to see like all these RCs that they put in there.
I'm just gonna say I'm glad that B2 battle droids aren't as hard to kill in the real canon universe as they are in the Republic Commando games.
Yeah, exactly.
Walking tanks.
This was the first episode where we probably saw a gonk droid save the day.
Yeah, that's so true.
And I think it was also the first time we actually seen one used for power. Yeah, well, exactly, because we've actually talked about it on the show at one point where, for anyone who didn't know, gonk droids are actually like just walking power supplies, walking power generators. This is the first time that we've actually seen one being used in a dire moment of like, we need power to go to whatever. It's like, oh, here's a handy gonk droid. Let's just plug it into the power auxiliary and boom, shields are up. And it's like, what the heck? Why doesn't every large spacecraft carry one of these things on it?
That's a good question. I was wondering that myself. I got to tell you, from now on, every Star Wars D&D game I play in, I'm keeping a gonk droid on board.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm so glad that I bought one of the Star Wars miniatures like for a gonk droid. You know, I saw it on Troll and Toad and I was like, you know what? It's like $1.99. What the heck? I don't have it. I'll just grab one of those. Now I'm really glad I got one.
That's right.
Yeah. We saw the possible death of Lama Su in this episode.
I noticed that too. They definitely possible, not confirmed, but they escorted out Nala Se, doors closed, and the troopers are like pointing their blasters at Lama Su. Yeah, and we're kind of left just wondering. Like, he could have been arrested, but the last words we got were, "You're no longer needed."
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, no longer needed for a politician. Like, we just, scientists useful, but politicians no longer useful, right? And so already the Empire is like, yeah, on the way out there. I mean, I think I brought this up when I'm trying to Omfree Ta, the Twi'lek, of Ryloth, right? And when he was assassinated, it was a very similar conversation where, I think I was mentioning the Empire has no more need for senators because it's an empire led by an emperor, and keeping senators in the Imperial Senate, so to speak, is kind of a courtesy. Whereas like they're not really useful anymore. It's like it's one dude calling all the shots and everyone else is just kind of along for the ride, and they can complain and say what they want. But if they say something bad, then they're just going to die anyway. They may as well just all take an early retirement and leave, right?
Well, what's interesting is I know there's a specific line in A New Hope where Tarkin says, I think to Vader, but it might be another character. He says that they've dissolved the Imperial Senate.
That was in episode 4. Yeah. The Imperial. So it took them a long time to dissolve the Imperial Senate. Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of surprised that they're already making such drastic moves now. But it seems like what they're doing is any of the senators that could pose a risk against the Empire, they're offing them and then probably putting puppets in their place.
Right. And it's also worth it to keep in mind that in the Clone Wars, we met the senator of Kamino, who is, it's like the older woman, Kaminoan. And then Lama Su is the prime minister. So he's the one that's on the planet, keeping watch over what's happening there. And then the senator of Kamino is on Coruscant, right? So it's interesting to me that they're probably ready to kill Lama Su, the prime minister, and the senator will either they'll find a replacement as a prime minister, or they'll be like, this entire plan is useless to us. Let's just kill everyone. The senator on Coruscant, fire her or kill her or something like that, because she's no longer relevant if the prime minister is dead. Because the two of them can't talk anymore, obviously. So what do we have to say? Like,
that said, in a lot of the books, planets are run by Moffs, not prime ministers. So they might kill the leading bodies who don't go along with the Empire, and replace them with their own stand-ins that are Moffs, and then maybe keep the senators around if they're corrupt enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It's tough to get a read on the Kaminoan senator. I forget her name now.
I know she was involved with some scheme. Yeah,
she was. Her name is Halle Bertoni, Senator Bertoni.
Halle Berry.
Senator Bertoni. I'll put it in the chat. You can hit that link. So yeah, Senator Bertoni was the Kaminoan senator, and she was a suspect for the death of the Rhodian senator.
The worst picture I've ever seen.
She's always got a grumpy face on. Yeah,
that looks awful.
So she turned out to be innocent of all charges on that front, but yeah, she was a suspect. But yeah, she is. She's the person the go-to of what's going on with the troops on Kamino and this and that. She kind of represents her home world of what's going on with their front lines, and now all those contracts are canceled. Plus, the prime minister is likely dead. So what's the use for her, right? So it makes me wonder: like, is she going to show up on the show? Is there going to be a reference to her being kind of executed as well? Or something? Maybe the Empire's gonna come up with some BS lie and just wipe out the Kaminoans just the way that they did with the Jedi, and kind of frame them as the bad guys again, and just like how they did with Cham Syndulla, and it seems to be a repeating thing that they've been doing with getting rid of people. It's like, well, okay,
that's why if you want an empire.
Yeah.
You can't have people around that are going to oppose your rule.
Yeah, it's like, let's just make someone look bad in front of everyone and then wipe them out, and then we look like the good guys, right?
Wipe them out.
Wipe them out. All of them.
There you go.
So Hunter's captured at the very end of this episode. And first thing I got to say about it is it would have been way cooler if Scorch had something to do with that. But we had the
instead he was
shot by those stormtroopers in the V-wings, and I'm like, man, like, well, he was, that's what caused him to fall, right? And it's like, it would have been way cooler if Scorch took out his classic grenade launcher, that we see him use in the games all the time, and
just blast him one,
blowing up the cliff or something, and that maybe caused his fall. Like, that's the only oversight that I think, to service fans of the game, it would have been a great service if Scorch was kind of the one to take down the protagonist of the story, because he's supposed to be a really, awesome Republic
Let's say everything played out the way it did, but when they actually capture Hunter, he was kind of like the lead guy and like threw him down and cuffed him or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. He was in the mix of people that arrested him, but he was kind of like tucked away in the middle at the back. And I was like, okay, it was cool to see him in this episode. I absolutely loved seeing him and the other RCs, but it would have been really cool, even more cool, to see him be the one to actually, like, have a larger part in taking down Hunter, because fans of the game, like, he is kind of our one of the hero characters, right? So
like an Easter egg. I wish we could have seen the other guys too. I don't know if they're
Boss,
dead.
Fixer, and Sev.
Yeah,
it would have been cool to see them too. I totally forget what happens with Sev's disappearance in the game as according to the book series, but Boss and Fixer definitely make it to the end. And yeah, it would have been cool to see them too. They do have the models still, so maybe we'll see them show up. Yeah, but man, fingers crossed for Republic Commandos here, like Delta Squad versus Clone Force 99. Bring it on. Right,
that'd be a cool episode.
That'd be amazing
if they're being hunted not just by Crosshair, but they're also being hunted by Delta Squad.
Or maybe when Crosshair, maybe if they do the redemption story and Crosshair turns back, maybe they're gonna set Delta Squad loose on Clone Force 99. They're like, hey, we need to dig up our old, Black Ops teams and try and
send them out,
take them down. Yeah, something like that.
That'd be pretty neat. I'd be up for that.
Yeah.
Well, that did lead to Hunter being captured, and now he is face to face with Crosshair. Crosshair, he points out that he won all of them, but do you think they're going to amp up the chip in Hunter as well?
I don't know. I think at this point it's tough to say what they'll do with I don't know. I don't picture Hunter being turned into a bad guy.
Would that be crazy though? Because he's the heart. That's like the deepest.
Yeah.
That's
he's the heart of the family.
Twist they could do. Yeah,
totally. So if they did do that, then I would imagine they would very quickly resolve that with them figuring out a way to reverse that and therefore fixing Crosshair as well.
Oh wait, they had them removed already.
Oh, right, of course, yeah.
We're totally forget that whole conversation. That's right. So they were smart. They avoided that. So I hope they actually try to do it and then they find out that it's missing.
And maybe he can pretend to act like an inside man or something like that.
I think they would be able to tell because they got the brain scanners.
Oh, true. Yeah. They're like, oh, nothing's here.
Yeah. It's just a scar.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like there's 2 episodes left. So like, what are your thoughts on how this is going to wrap up?
Well, I'm not sure how. Hunter's going to escape and he's going to get Crosshair into the room and he's going to use that droid, the one I keep bringing up, but we haven't seen since the first episode, to take the chip out of him. And then he's going to come to his senses. And they're going to get out.
You're still convinced we're going to see that droid again, eh?
I am. Why else is he there?
I think it's a throwaway story. I don't know if anything's going to happen with that one now.
Just wait, man. Just wait. You're gonna be buying me lunch.
Well, until we find out, we got 2 episodes left. One for this upcoming Friday, and the last one will be premiering on supposedly August 13th, I guess. So lots to look forward to. Do you have any last points to bring up that we maybe didn't cover?
I wanted to talk about Gregor being crazy.
Oh yeah, that's a good one, right?
Because when we saw him last, not Rebel, so we saw him last in Clone Wars, he was fine, and then he blew up, And then we saw him in Rebels and he was crazy. And we all just assumed, oh, he blew up. That's why he's crazy.
Yeah.
But in this episode, I believe his tech asks him, like, what happened to you? How did you end up like this? Because he's already loopy.
Yeah.
And he replies that he tried to escape and the Empire doesn't take kindly to deserters. So it seems that he was actually tortured to the point where he went insane.
Oh, no, he did acknowledge the blowing up part.
Yeah, but
there was a line that
was,
said, I've blown up once before.
Yeah, but that was at a different point
in
the episode. That wasn't in direct answer to Tech asking him how he ended up the way he is.
It's kind of tough to put a pin on it because he doesn't really say much before Bad Batch finds him. So it's really tough to say. I don't know. I think the state that we find him in, I don't know if it was actually the torturing that made him all like that. Like,
it's a lot darker though.
What I would kind of suspect though is that because his voice is different already, like it is kind of like how we hear it in Star Wars Rebels, except it's much worse by that point because he's just aged a lot more. Mm-hmm. And I think like the damage that may have been caused to his brain just accelerates faster with his age growth.
Maybe.
I think like that if I were to come up with any kind of like Pablo reasoning, that would be what it is. But I don't know. That's just me. Who knows?
No,
it's possible that he was, very much tortured.
He's already got that kind of kooky laugh he does every once in a while.
Yeah, he's already got that laugh. Yeah, I think it's more of like he doesn't roll his eyes like he does when he's an old man, but I think like it's like a weird voice thing that may have been affected by the explosion. Yeah.
So he's like the Riddler.
Yeah.
Slowly going insane.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that though, because I always had assumed it was the explosion, and maybe that is the case. But knowing that it could have been like that, that could have been Han. That could have been Han Solo. Han Solo could have ended up like that.
Right. Yeah. Well, between Han Solo getting tortured endlessly and then being stuck in carbonite, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten to that point. Right. So that's why I'm like, okay, it's got to be the explosion because we've seen a lot of people get tortured and they come out fine. So, or at least for the most part.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they'll share more. Or maybe Dave or Pablo will get asked directly.
Yeah.
Maybe you should find out. Tweet them.
Yeah. Maybe they'll like do a group tweet on a single hashtag and get the answer for this thing.
It'd be kind of neat.
Cool. Is that everything? We got everything they covered.
Yeah, everything I was interested in talking about. It's a neat episode. There's lots going on. I'm really excited to see what the final two are going to be about.
It was, yeah, very much so.
It's got to be a two-parter. So,
yeah.
You thought it was a cliffhanger tonight or like on Friday? Wait for the next one.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was even the first kind of arc in a trio, like a trilogy arc, like what we used to get in Clone Wars. I wouldn't be surprised if it was even
could
this
be
is the start, right? Yeah, this is the start of the finale kind of thing, and the finale is like 3 episodes long. So
it's crazy. There's only 2 left now, though.
Yeah, and and it might be jumping the gun and saying this, but it was a good season, and I'm looking forward to season 2.
It's gonna be Game of Thrones ending, and just everything's garbage.
I don't know if he'll get that back. Weirdly enough, unrelated to Star Wars though, like I actually didn't have a massive problem with the ending of Game of Thrones. Maybe
I never watched it.
I wasn't like that's fair. I wasn't a huge diehard fan that like some people are. I just enjoyed it as the seasons came out, and I never tended to rewatch any of the seasons. So I can't exactly call myself a fan, but I enjoyed it.
It's hard to know what's going on when you do that with Game of Thrones. Anyway.
Yeah. But forever it'll be the memeable ending of a television show that people have been wanting to see for years, and then it gets a huge letdown. So, yeah.
What can you do? Let's hope it's not that. I don't think it will be. Season 1, Dave Filoni's behind it. I trust him. It'll be good. And Season 2 will come back and we'll get everything we want. We'll get Gregor. He'll be part of the team. He'll have full Commando gear. And Echo will finally have an arm that's not just a screwdriver.
Yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Everything's going to come together. It's going to be great.
Exactly. All right, man. Well, until next time, I guess we'll catch you in the next one.
Sounds good. Got a blast.
All right, thanks, Blake. And once again, just a reminder, thank you to Darian for filling in for Blake those last 2 weeks that he was away. We'll have him back in the future again on another episode, and we're looking forward to that. It'll be a party. Season 2 of The Mandalorian Gallery will be dropping August 25th this month, and we're very much looking forward to that. As you know, as a quick notice, a couple things have dropped within the realm of the High Republic lately, and we do plan to get around to reading those and reviewing those for you guys, and just so you can listen in all about it. If you're not planning on reading it, we're going to break it down for you as well, and just kind of tell you what all that stuff is about, so you can follow along with us in the adventures of the High Republic and that entire new era that they're building towards the Acolyte, which will premiere in, I believe it's 2 years from now on Disney Plus. Speaking of Disney Plus, I mean, we have the last 2 episodes of The Bad Batch around the corner, as well as likely to be a new teaser of some kind heading our way for Mandalorian the Book of Boba Fett, which is basically Mandalorian season 2.5 is what it's been described to be, which drops later this year. So the likelihood of a trailer coming our way at some point towards the end of the summer is very, very likely, and I would not be surprised if it even hit us within the next month or two. So keep an eye out for that. We're all looking forward to that show and seeing what happens with the character of Boba Fett and so on and so forth. Prepare yourself for haunted happenings in LEGO Star Wars Terrifying Tales with the Disney Plus LEGO adventure premiering October 1st, streaming exclusively on Disney Plus. And this looks to be taking place after the events of The Rise of Skywalker. I highly doubt that this is actually canon. It's always up in the air with these LEGO adventures, but the fact that it's a LEGO adventure in its comical form taking place after the events of that movie, I believe will be one of the few stories, canon or not, that does take place after The Rise of Skywalker. So you can all look forward to that on October 1st. And I bet it'll be very similar in length to the Christmas special, the holiday special that they released last year, which was also with the similar cast of characters that they used. And those LEGO movies are always a bit of fun. Even if you watch it once and never again, it's just it's a laugh or two. And they poke some jokes at the franchise as always in their lighthearted LEGO humor that they normally do. So that's always cool. LEGO is also releasing a UCS Republic gunship with over 3,000 pieces, and the Republic gunship has always been one of my favorite ships in Star Wars, and also known as the Laddie gunship. And to finally be seeing this UCS ship announced and gonna be a thing, I'm stoked. I don't know if I'll buy it because I already own like a normal size Lego gunship, but it's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet looking, and I believe it's gonna be $350. I think that's in US dollars, but that's what we're getting. And speaking of more products and merchandise, there will be a Star Wars Tamagotchi releasing later this year as well, which is shaped like R2-D2, and you have to take care of your very own R2-D2 in the form of Tamagotchi. Now, this isn't just some sort of knockoff Tamagotchi. This is actually Tamagotchi, the company making a Star Wars product. So, it's kind of neat to see. All right, thanks again, guys, for tuning in to the show. And as always, if you want to leave us a 5-star review, that really helps us out, as well as sharing this show with a friend, dropping a comment, or leaving a nice little message in the comment area. You can also get in touch with us at the show. We'd love to hear from you guys. And you can do that by following us on Twitter at SW Escape Podcast. We also got an Instagram account and a link to our voicemail inbox that you can record your own voicemail message for us at the show. And if you're lucky enough, we might even play it on the show and answer any questions you guys might have. Feel free to shoot us an email as well. We'd love to hear from you guys on that platform. I know we've had a lot more emails than anything else, but Twitter and the email are the best ways to get a hold of us. So please keep sending them in with your lovely feedback of the show. We always love to hear from you guys. And, if there's any subjects or topics that you guys want us to cover that isn't already in our list of things to do, we'd love the suggestions. With only 2 episodes of The Bad Batch left, we will be returning to our What Happened series, as well as the reviews on the High Republic content that recently dropped on shelves, which includes the latest novels and a catch-up on the Marvel comic series, as well as the IDW Star Wars Adventures comic book series. Those are on our to-do list, and you can expect a lot of stuff as well as soon as the Mandalorian Gallery drops later this month, along with Book of Boba Fett and various other Star Wars things happening in the galaxy. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and may the Force be with you. We'll catch you next time right here on Star Wars Escape Pod.